care of many citizens of both Tinsley and Worland, which I will continue to do if I'm elected. Continue to take care of Worland's issues, continue to take care of Tinsley's issues, ensure success for the library, ensure success for the ambulance service. Way I approach issues is the same exact way that I would approach taking care of a critical patient. You're presented with the issue. You start with the most important issue first, bring in all of the expert consultation that you need to make sure that that first level is appropriately taken care of. And then you can continue to move through your algorithm as you gain success, taking care of each of those issues. So I promise that there wouldn't be any quick decisions on my part. There would be lots of consideration. I'm certainly very transparent and happy for any conversation, anytime. My door is always open. And I think that through Washakie, involved with Washakie County Ambulance. I've been on Rotary, and I have been part of the Pony Express. My involvement with Washakie County, but definitely taking care of both Worland and Tinsley is very important to me. I've had a couple of questions, especially, why are you doing this? Well, I was asked to do it. Really considered that question for about a month and a half before making that decision that, yep, I could really, really help out Washakie County, continue the success of Washakie County. The other question that I've received is, why do we need 2 representatives from Tinsley? And I don't look at it as 2 representatives from Tinsley. I look at it as a body of people to take care of both Tinsley and Worland. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Next, Fred, would you like the question reread?
No. Can you hear me now? No static. We're good. We're good. So good afternoon. It's great to be here, and like this forum that we got going here. So I'm running for re. I had alongside my wife, we've owned a small business, Branson Safety, for the last 20 years. I have 3 grown children and 4 beautiful grandchildren, which I adore. I've been active in my community through my church, through the scholarships committees that I've been on. I've also been active in the Washakie County Republican Party. My only motivation for re-election is to have my children and my grandchildren have the same way of life that we have all had here. And that's my motivation on for that. Some of the accomplishments that I've had is I'm the some of the accomplishments that we had as a county commission is we have free life flight for all county residents that has an address established here in Washakie County. And as you know, some of those life flights can be very expensive, and they can actually be bankruptcies. So we're pretty fortunate that we've had that, and we were able to go down to the state legislature and fight for that because they tried to get rid of that, and we won. So we're pretty happy about that. Initiated cost-saving insurance for the county employees. We saved about $90,000 out of that. Oversee the remodeling of the building of the new Washakie County Library, which was a challenge. But anyway, and also instrumental in working with the Wyoming Homeland Security. Some of the boards that I serve on currently, I am the chairman of the the Wyoming County Commissioners Association's Safety and Health Committee. That helps us out with our substance abuse. It helps us out with Title 25, helping people that need help. It helps out a lot. I'm going to cut short here. So youth alternatives and Washakie County abuse Coalition is part of that there. And I'll turn that over now. So.
Okay, is this good?
Yeah.
So I'm Lynette Swain, and I've lived here my whole life. And I feel like I would be a good county commissioner. Don't have no experience, but I owned a beauty shop for 30 years. And if you can do hair, you can do anything, I swear to God. And I started it when I was 20, sold it when I was 50, and the same 4 people worked with me the whole years, and we had a wonderful situation. So the last 10 years, I've done all kinds of different things. I've worked with the elderly. I cook at the sales barn. I own the movie center. That was very interesting. And I feel like I have just a big variety of doing different things. I have a big mouth. I'm not lazy at all. What else could I say about myself? I'm kind of concerned. I told my kids I'm not a very good reader at all. So I'm going to do lots of reading. So I've already been practicing a little bit, comprehending stuff. When my kids are like, Mom, we can read it for you. You'll be fine. So that's been my hesitant before running, was always been my reading. And I maybe should have went to school longer. I don't know, but I'm not a very good reader. But we'll get through it. So I guess that's all. I'd appreciate your vote. And I think I'd be really good. So there you are.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
I'm back. All right, first and foremost, before I get into the question there, you can start the timer obviously. Just want to thank you, Ron Scott, for your service. He was just recognized at the Reese Across America this morning, welcomed home as a Vietnam veteran. And I saw him get in there and was honored to witness that. So thank you for your service, brother. Appreciate you. All right, so the question was, what kind of leader are you and what kind of leadership are you bringing to Washakie County? Is that correct? All right, so I am born and raised here in Orland, Wyoming. Born in 1981, graduated in 2000, went immediately into the United States Navy and have served honorably since then. There was a 3-year break in service. Right now, my current rank is a Chief Petty Officer, and I'm the Senior Enlisted Leader over the Reserve in the state of Montana. And actually was just selected for a major promotion to Limited Duty Officer, which is a Mustang officer. I was one of 3 across the Navy Reserve to get selected for that position. So very honored and humbled that little old me from Orland, Wyoming was one of 3 in the nation this year for that selection. So as far as the questions go, I am a Navy chief, and being tasked with that is I lead my troops. Everything that I'm tasked with, put out to my troops, but the way I lead is a rapport-based leadership. I always have a task at hand that needs to be done. Same way as a county commissioner, we have a goal, and I can have an idea of the way to get there, but the thing is I have a lot of sailors that have a lot of experience in particular areas. And if one of my sailors comes up to me and says, Chief, hey, I see where we gotta be with this goal, but if we can get there and save man hours, save money, and work smarter and not harder, I will generally go with what my sailors say because they know best, because they're in that position all the time. It's the same way with Washakie County. We have an end goal, and if we can do it smarter and better and save resources and save money and get the job done to the absolute satisfaction that is required, we will do it. So yes, I will bring that rapport-based leadership and openness that I have in the military to Washakie County. You can call me anytime. We can discuss things. Say, Morgan, let's go to coffee. Morgan, let's go to lunch, or let's talk about these issues. You know, I have some ideas for you, or I'd like to talk why you should support this vote, or why I don't support this vote, and I will sit down and talk with you. So that's what I bring. Thank you.
We're just gonna get rid of that mic. Okay, we'll move on to question 2. If new resources were available, what one area of the county services would you feel needs additional resources? Or barring new resources, what one part of the county government would receive more attention if you were elected? Start with Brian.
Am I on? I would focus on bringing businesses into Washakie County, offering more opportunities for the citizens of our communities, for jobs for their family, security for their families here in Washakie County. We've got a railroad that runs through. We have opportunity for transportation. We've got great roads surrounding us. We're really perfectly located here at the top of Wyoming to bring in industrial companies, manufacturing companies. So I would really focus on bringing in jobs and businesses.
Chief, would you repeat the question?
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry.
The question is, if new resources were available, what one area of county services would you feel most needs additional resources? Or barring new resources, what one part of the county government would receive more attention if you were elected?
Well, that's kind of a pretty loaded question, actually. So there's a couple of things that as a county commissioner we really need to focus on, and that's our road and bridge that we have here in the county. We got 242 miles of county roads. Those need some help, and to get help with those we need good equipment. The state legislature, we fought this year there to get extra money so that we could actually buy another road grader or have a road grader available for that. So that would be one of the things that I would look at, would be going out to help out with our road and bridge. The other one would be our law enforcement, to get them some more support for our substance abuse issues that we have, and some of the mental health that we have issues with in our county that we have right now. So those would be the two issues that I would look at that get some more resources. We have a good organization here in the county that helps out recruiting good quality businesses to come in here. They've had an outstanding record with that. So those other two issues would be the ones that I would focus on. Thank you.
Next, Lynette, would you like the question for
I
your?
can do it. Can I just sit here? Is that okay? So, the last 10 years, I've been involved with elderly people, and, it's crazy. There's not a lot of help out there for people that still live at home, and they just tell those people, well, we have a a hospice, or we have home health in Thermopolis, or we have it in Lovell, or we have it in, well, we really don't, because they're all busy. They don't have time. And no one really knows how bad the services are here until you either get in a situation or you have someone sick at home. You can hardly keep them home. You don't have no advice. It gets scary, because people are scared, and so I've been really involved in that. I don't know if you guys remember when Sherry DeCrew and I several years ago, tried to kind of get something going, and we just got closed doors everywhere we were. Say, we can't afford it because of this county. That's BS, because every town has home health or hospice except for Portland, Wyoming. We did get punished several years ago, I think it was in 2000. Mandy Lambeth, Horth is actually the one that gave me the article that we had a whistleblower in the community. And the Medicare was, am I right, Mandy? The Medicare was billed fraudly. I don't think it was done, I don't know if it was done on purpose, on purpose, I don't know exactly. So we lost our home health advantage, we lost it. But don't you think after 20 years we've been penalized enough? You know, I think that's crazy. So that's one of my main things is that, and my second main thing is, of course, we've all done business, hard thing to do. And another thing is, what's I gonna say? Another thing was, I would like to see businesses again. Oh, the other thing I'd like to see is figure out our Google Map stuff. I live on Washakie 10, and if we could figure out how to take everybody that goes to Yellowstone Park, come through Worland to buy either a pop or fill up a gas station, do something from Thermopolis, they turn at Matitsi. From my house, they turn at my house on Washakie 10. If they miss that, they go down past the Mormon church, whatever that road is. So Worland gets bypassed how many times all day long? So last summer, I actually counted the tourists that came by. One day, 91 cars. Bob Fernandez said he's got a show there. He can do speed tickets all day long because it's 45 miles an hour all the way. So that is one of my goals, is to get that changed on the Google thing or however you do it. So that could help Worland right there. What, 1.5 million go to Yellowstone? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to read that question again. If new resources were available, what one area of the county services would you feel was most needs attention or additional resources? Or barring new resources, what one part of the county government would receive more attention if you were elected?
All right, so I'm assuming by resources you're talking about money, and as that would be a really great question for the two city commissioners as they've set this for over a decade plus. But if money comes available, where does that money come from? How are we bringing that money? That's a question that I would ask right away. Is money isn't free; it's coming from somewhere. What is on the back end of that money? What are we going to owe? And then, as far as what one area, is that the question?
Well, the second part of it is barring new resources, what one part of the county government would receive more attention if you were elected?
Again, not sitting in this seat before, you know, that's a really tough question for us prospective commissioners. But talking with people across the county for the last 8 weeks, all areas need money. There's places in the county that have said they haven't had a raise in 20 years, so it's not fair to pull out one department over the other and say that we'd allocate the funds to them right away. I think it needs to be across the board where our county needs money. They need pay raises to keep up with inflation. I mean, we're grossly behind inflation with our county folks, so that's a huge deal. And then, as you know, right now with inflation as a nation, which they said, what is the number now? 7 to 10%. I don't understand that at all, because you look at the gas pump and it's double to triple of what it was. So where is this minute number coming from? Because it's in the hundreds percent to me. So, so yeah, that's just it. Is all areas across the county are hurting for money. How do we acquire that money? I think one of the ways that we would acquire money is with grants. And that grant money isn't just magical money that comes from the Fed. That is your tax dollars that we're getting back from the government for you and putting back in our pockets. So that's one way I do it.
Okay, well, Fred stole my thunder right off the bat. I knew that was coming. But as Morgan brings up, I mean, having sat in that position there as a county commissioner, roads are a huge issue for the county, and just equipment. We haven't had a new road grader in probably 10 to 12 years, and just we're fix the equipment that we have and try to maintain things the best we can. We've got, I don't remember the exact mileage of asphalt roads versus dirt roads, but I can give an example on the lower Knollwood. We had a stretch of road there that's still bad that we need to do some work on, had some bids on it. It came in almost $1 million, and like, shoot, we don't even have that in our road and bridge budget to be able to do that. So we had to put it on the back burner. We're just trying to make ends meet the best we can. And everybody's got a road issue. That's probably one of, if we're gonna get any calls on anything, that's probably the most calls it is because some potholes or things like that, or the roads are washboarded. And we've got a 5-person crew. They're a very good crew. But it's where they can only be at one place at one time as they're out there doing things. So the roads would be a big issue in equipment, and be on a rotational basis the best we can. And over the last 10 years, well, it's been longer than that. It would have been when Aaron Anderson came on board there. It was times that things were pretty lean, and we have a courthouse that is as bare bones as we can be in each department. Used to be for new equipment in each department, there was not unlimited amounts in their new equipment line items, but we had to cut everything back in every department down to $500. Anything over $500, they need to come to the commission to bring in some quotes or bids, or depending on what it was, so we could talk about it. And we've to a point that, I mean, we can't eliminate any more personnel without, or eliminate any more costs in the courthouse without eliminating jobs. And the board brought up their salaries are a big deal. There were raises this year. We were able to make those work. And for the elected officials also, that it's been 8 years since there's been a raise for them, 12 years for the county commissioners. And so it's the money just doesn't grow on trees, and it's something that we try to be as conservative as possible when we're trying to make ends meet, because there's always something that comes up that out of the blue, whether it's an air handler at the courthouse or something that there's an air handler right now at the hospital, one of the older air handlers, not on the new part that we need to look at, and that's $211,000. Does that sound about right, Phyllis? In there, so there's a good chunk of change that all of a sudden out of the blue you have to come up with, and so we try to stay on top of things. One other thing that would be an important deal in the county there, the one thing that I think limits us a little bit is we don't have an interstate coming through like Buffalo or other areas to be able to have the traffic come in. I mean, look at when River Canyon gets closed down there from when wow, that went fast. So, all right. Yeah.
Okay, we will move on to question 3 here. Third question. What do you see as the most pressing needs for the infrastructure or capital projects for Washakie County? We will start out with Fred Franson first.
Can you hear me now? Most pressing needs I see right now is our youth, is probably with the substance abuse that we've had going on, not just in this community, but all the other communities that we have, getting some support and getting that. We are very fortunate that we have a poster child for the state with the Substance Abuse Coalition that we have in place that's working very well. That would be one of the pressing needs that I see, that because it has devastated our youth, and it's devastated our young adults out there as well. The other thing that I see that's pressing is that we would try to maintain our way of life that we have right now with the funds that we have. We look at, we have a tax. I didn't want to bring up that T word, but it's what we have to do to fund our county and our municipalities. But we have a tax that's coming up right now that is a pressing need, that it helps fund the Senior Citizen Center. It helps fund a lot of the organizations that we have here that need help, that we as a county would not be able to give them all the help that they needed. Last year it helped fund the fire district, and that worked out very well. That was a good example of good use of that taxpayer money. I think that the sales tax that we have that's being proposed is the fairest. I am not for property tax at all. That's a bad word for me, or words, but I wish that we had money growing on trees, but we don't. So those are the two pressing needs that I would see.
Next, Pat, would you like that question rewritten?
I don't think so, yeah.
The question is, what do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in Washakie County?
I really don't know how to answer this, but I'll try. Getting people to move here, getting people to stay here is a big thing, and I really, jobs, of course. I don't really know how to answer this. Let me think. Getting more things, like I said earlier, for elderly people, for some help, that is needed. My daughter-in-law's mother just passed away, and there was hospice that came to her house from Lovell, I believe, and they had time for 45 minutes. That was it. When you have someone home that is that situation, we need something. To me, we do spend a lot of money on roads and bridges and all this stuff, but for some reason, Wyoming always thinks they have to have the best roads. I don't know why, but I guess for people to fly through the town faster. I don't know. But I really don't know why we spend so much money, but it's always been a thing. Since I've been a kid, it's been a thing. So maybe I'll learn more about that. And another thing I think is maybe try to open up to the community of you guys coming to the meetings and coming and helping us decide stuff, giving input. There's 10 heads is better than 1, 20 heads is better than, you know what I'm saying? Get everybody more involved to come to these meetings, to, you know, get ideas, to get things, to work together. If you can get to work together, that is, and I think I have the ability to make people work together. Most of the time people don't want to work together because they didn't know the information. They didn't know that this was happening. They didn't know, well, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. Well, then the feelings kind of get hurt and they're like, well, I'm not going. But I think that's a big, big thing in our community is we need to open it up, everyone try to get along, no matter how many different opinions we have, and make a plan, and go from there. That's kind of the only thing I got going. Here we go. Thank you.
Next, we have Morgan. Would you like me to reread that question?
Sure.
Okay. What do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in Washakie County?
All right. Again, this is a very commissioner-based question. I'm not sitting in that seat, so pressing needs for Washakie County. Worland, from when I graduated 20 years ago, is a lot different. You can't go down to the store and buy a package of underwear. You have to order it online. We need to figure out ways to, and I think we're all kind of on the same page here, is, or at least what I hear we're saying the same things, is we need to figure out ways to attract businesses to Washakie County, to sustain those businesses that we have in Washakie County, and to attract bigger business to Washakie County. And what does that do for us? It increases our tax base, and when we increase our tax base, we don't have to rely so much on the 1% tax to always fund everything. If we increase that tax base, we can offset that and not use that as a crutch all the time. So I think that's a huge thing. This is the silliest thing, and I'll tell people what one of the questions that I get, I would say about 80% of the time, and I didn't even know this was still a thing, is why is it Walmart in Worland, Wyoming right now? And I was under the old school impression that it would put small business out of business. And as with everybody in here, you have your hand in one way, shape, or form in a small business, do we not? But people have spoken. People are like, you need to figure out why Walmart is not here, because just that alone, bringing that massive place here creates several hundred jobs. It creates it, which in turn pushes back or builds up our tax base. And then not only that, but it keeps our money that we're traveling out of town every weekend to spend our money or shopping online. It keeps that here. Also, it attracts everybody from the Bighorn Basin to come and spend their money here. So I think that's a great idea. Not necessarily that it doesn't have to be Walmart, but something of the like. So, anyways, I think the community has spoke, and that is a great majority of the people I've talked to have talked about that. So, I guess one of the other things too that I have heard from the community is the 65 and older tax relief. I've heard of plenty of people in trouble with losing their homes because they can't pay their taxes. But you work your whole life to pay off your house, and at the end you're still owe money on it. You don't actually own your house because you're still paying your taxes. I'd be in full favor of voting for and getting rid of a 65 or older tax or the tax relief for them, so they don't have to pay taxes anymore on their properties. So thank you.
Okay, I won't go into roads, which is a pressing need. I covered that pretty well, I think, the last go around. But one thing, and you've probably seen it in the paper here the last month and a half, but is the need for an ambulance barn. And the reason why on that is that there before, when COVID hit and we had a volunteer ambulance service, we were in a bind. We were the few minimal volunteers that we had, it was just hard for them to take calls, and if you're in need of an ambulance, that's the last thing you need to have is to worry about are they going to show up or not. So we went with the contract with Cody Regional, and along with that, we were going to find a place to house them. Currently, we're renting a place kind of over by the pit stop, and that is working, but it's not a feasible spot. It's something that we've committed to, and we've from the funds that we had in the ambulance before it went to Cody Regional, we're able to keep that ambulance running for the next couple of years yet. But we're planning ahead, trying to find a place to put it. And I'm sure you saw the back and forth in the paper there. And one thing as a county commissioner, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to make everybody happy. And if you're trying to make everybody happy, you shouldn't be in the position. So the way I look at it is my door has always been open, phone, email, what have you. Is if you got questions, please ask. Instead of Lynette kind of touched on a little bit, as people didn't know about a meeting or this or that, or more people there to help. And when I first ran there, it was like somebody was complaining, well, why is the BLM doing this, or the Forest Service doing that, or why is the county doing that? It's like, well, they've got regular meetings, or did you go to that meeting they had? And all the comments always, well, no, I didn't have time. It's like, well, you had time to belly up to the bar or sit down at the coffee shop and drink coffee, but you didn't have time to go to pay attention to the meeting. And that's where it's like, if you're going to help, you got to step up to the plate and be part of the solution. And that's what I wanted to do when I first ran it, and that hasn't changed. So back to the pressing need of the ambulance, we will find a place. What we were looking at out on Road 11, that isn't completely gone, but we're looking at it. If that doesn't work, I mean, we still have the property down there where the old community hall used to be, but the issue with that, we can save a significant amount of money in this other location we've been looking at. Even after renovations, $250,000 to $500,000, and that's a big deal for a small county like Worland, Tensley, and Washakie County. When I think we rank about 21st or 20th in the state as far as valuation of all the counties. So being conscientious of things like that is very important, and looks like I'm not out of time, so I won't even get started on the next one.
Well, I have to pretty much echo what Lynette and Morgan say. Since I'm not sitting on the commission seat, I don't know exactly those pressing issues, but certainly to make sure that the ambulance is successful. Cody Regional does an amazing job. Very thankful that they do have a very quick response time and are able to take care of our citizens of Washakie County. Of course, being a nurse, that's very near and dear to me. I'm also the nurse for the county at the law enforcement center. So making sure that we have all of the equipment to appropriately send out from sheriffs and our ambulance service for sure. So not much else I can elaborate other than making sure that Washakie County is very successful.
Okay, so we will move on to our fourth question. Now, keep in mind that all these questions were submitted to Wendy from Senior Citizen Center staff and people attending. They were put together and then submitted to me. The candidates have not been provided any of these questions. The fourth question, before we go to opening up the floor, is should any part of the Washakie County budget be shielded from cuts, and if so, what area? And this time we will start with Lynette first.
Well, honestly, I have no idea. I'd stand up here and say something, but truthfully, I don't even know how to answer that. What was it again, the question?
Should any part of the Washakie County budget be shielded from cuts? And if so, what area?
I honestly can't answer that. I'm sorry, but I can't. I have no idea what budgets go to what. Terry and Fred have both said how important the roads and bridges are. I've always thought they're not that important, so I don't know. I'm gonna learn something with that evidently, because that is the big, big part of our budget. I can't really answer that. I'm sorry.
Morgan?
Sure.
All right, so the truth is, to me, is that I talked about inflation, is that everything is already operating under their means anyways. Like they should have more money, and that's why we have to increase that tax base to attract the business here, to keep the money here in the county, because we need more money. We shouldn't be cutting. We should be looking at ways outside the box to bring revenue here so we can have these, and so the senior center is not hurting, or the law enforcement center is not hurting or having to make cuts. We need this stuff. So pushing forward.
The county like Washakie County, there's grass is greener a lot of times on the other side of the private sector, and when you lose those employees, but again, cutting any more personnel, again, we're at the bare minimum, as I mentioned, road and bridge, five people, including the road and bridge superintendent, and each of the offices there, they can't do any less than what they have. As far as the sheriff's office, I mean, there's a lot of turnover there, and a lot of other counties pay higher in their sheriff's departments than we can, and we recognize that, and we had to, we have given the raises out, we'll start here this fiscal year, and so that'll be a help for us there, but again, it's a big deal if you lose the personnel. The other thing I want to touch on a little bit is Fred, yeah, figures get from the throat. Fred touched on the 1 cent sales tax. That is important. I mean, I know nobody likes taxes, but a sales tax is the fairest tax out there. And when we go to the state to talk to the SLIB board or any other entity out there that might have funds available and grants and things like that, the first question they're going to ask is, what are you doing to help yourselves in Washakie County? And they're going to ask, what tax rate do you have for sales tax? And so we've been able to collect quite a few funds through grants and things like, I mean, look at the library there without that, the $500,000 that we got there, I believe that was the amount, Fred. That was a big deal to help us finish that project, plus the donations that we had are a help. But again, the biggest thing I would say, Chris, is we can't cut any more personnel. If you lose the people in those offices there and they can't function, then the whole county becomes dysfunctional, and when we can't have that, we need to have the services that are by statute that we have to provide out there, and So that's important. Thank you.
Rodney, would you like that question reread?
No, thank you. In my opinion, my gut says we should shield our law enforcement and our EMS from cuts. It's very important that those safety entities remain strong, are given every opportunity to possess the equipment and the skills that they need to keep our community safe. In my opinion, it would be EMS and law enforcement to shield.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
When it comes to budgets, and you're looking at all the budgets that did come across the county commissioners and the chief clerk, which is Mary Grace on that, it is tough to say that we would shield this or shield that. I think that everybody needs to come to the plate and to discuss and talk about it. I guess I would say is essential services is where I would say stop right there. We need to really look at our essential services. We know law enforcement, fire department is essential services. We are fighting right now in the state legislature to get our ambulance services as an essential service. Right now, it's not in the state. So I'm on one of those task force to help get that and facilitate the ambulance services that we have in Washakie, or in Wyoming, as well as Washakie County, to be essential services. So I would say our essential services is where we would stay and stop and slow down and say, we got to be careful with this. They have to be able to function. These are services that we need. And these are services that you may not need, but when you do, you don't want to wait for a long time. We had one person come up and says, I ain't going to vote for that tax for the ambulance service. I don't need an ambulance. I'm just going to leave it right there. So my answer to that there is we would protect our essential services as best we can. But we all need to look at coming to the plate when it comes down to no more money.
Okay, next, we are going to open it up to the floor, and we are going to take several questions. We are going to ask that the candidates, they will have 2 minutes to answer these questions, and we will continue in the round robin format that we've been using. So the first one up will be Morgan with his 5th question. I will let Wendy identify who it is and get the question.
Nobody? Okay, we got 2. Start right here.
Talking to Morgan.
All of us.
The whole body. Okay, good. I don't really have a question, but I have a suggestion that I'm pretty OCD on city ordinances. And, I think if we had all of us here that is still able-bodied step up to help, step up to help the commissioners. Am I done? And I've talked with the mayor about this, and I go around the community and I go up and down the alleys, and I go around and I read the city ordinances, and I know your county commissioners, but it's kind of the same. And I think if we all stepped up and helped one another, and when we see a neighbor that needs some help, whether they're old and their lawnmower's broken, their gate needs fixed, and we have the talent, could we step up? And then you don't have to do it. We do it. We become, like Lynette said, we become partners in this county to raise the standard of our care so that people, the like-mindedness, want to move here and bring their businesses here and raise their families here. And we all step up.
Is that a question that you'd like a reply to from?
I do have a reply to that though. All right, so I think that's wonderful, and we should, as a community, step up and help each other out in the first place. That's what being a good neighbor is. And that saying that I've heard in the last few years, that Wyoming is what America was, rings true, and it should ring true, especially here, because this is a wonderful community, and we should be looking out for our neighbors. So anything that we can do to help out, we should be. And as commissioners, or a prospective, maybe future county commissioner, yeah, absolutely, we would interest older generation veterans who go in and take care of their homes or do their yards, repaint their house or fences. So why couldn't we have an organization, or some people spearhead an organization where they could go out and do that? So awesome, thank you for that.
Next would be Terry.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that is an important deal. And that, one thing that I would like to mention is every year we always say, and at our meetings we tell the paper, we tell everybody our meetings are open to the public. Please come in and listen. And rarely do we get somebody come in and want to participate in any meetings. And I mean, granted, some of it is kind of boring or whatever, but there are a lot of things out there that people could participate in, and we've had an issue in finding volunteers and things. We have a lot of boards that we fill: the library board, the hospital board, the landfill board, and tent sleep in Moreland, and different vacancies, planning commission, and have a hard time finding people to help out. And we didn't bring that up, that people should help out. That is important, because I think just having those folks get out there to participate, you're building camaraderie with the folks that you're there working with. You're getting your name out there. You're meeting people, and I look back when we didn't have cell phones and things like that, and where I grew up at, we didn't have the TV we had 2 stations, and either Riverton or Thermop was off the air most of the time, and you had so much interference and everything else, and never watched TV. But now you've got cell phones and computers, and everybody just glued to that phone or the computer. I mean, when you sit and eat lunch sometime or supper, just look at everybody around you at their tables. I mean, they got their nose into their phone and don't even have a conversation, and it just makes you wonder, do families even have supper at the table anymore with the parents and the kids and things like that? And the last comment I'd like to say is I do believe this community, Washakie County, and the folks here in Moreland and Tent Sleep are very gracious. There was so much outreach that I just was floored. I couldn't believe it, and I'm so grateful for that I live here in the Woods to meet everybody.
Is this still on? Okay. Yes, absolutely echo everybody here. We do have amazing, amazing communities. And how easy would it be for us to be united and work as a solid group to improve Moreland, to improve Tinsley. The one thing that I would really like to fix, talking about that the commissioner meetings are open to the public, is change the time. 9 o'clock in the morning is not a very convenient time, especially for working families. They have to find coverage for work. They need to find coverage for child care. So I think there would be more participation from our community if we had a more accessible time for the community to come and approach the commissioners.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Well, Terry took away a lot of that for me. We have tried, we've called, we've made phone calls, we've put it in the paper. By statute, we publicize our meetings, and we may not get 1, unless it's a hot topic issue where we've asked people to come in as well, we'll get a good participation and we'll be able to have a good conversation with folks. That is a struggle that we've always had. Our minutes are always there. They're published in the paper. They're also on the Washakie County website, so that is, exactly what we were talking or discussing about and what was voted on. I do think, and I do actually, I know that we live in a community that steps up for our residents, and anytime they need, they come on and step up. The ice jam that we had, the community outpour came in, and the Wyoming Homeland Security came in, and they said, "We've never seen a community like this. This was amazing." Churches stopped their meetings, and they came and they filled sandbags. That was amazing. So our community that we have is volunteers. When somebody needs it, they step up and get to it. So I guess that's about all I have to say.
Yes, I just experienced being on the ambulance a few weeks ago, and they were wonderful. I was scared to death to be on there, and the two women that were, they eased me. It was amazing. And another thing is Norma Worley. I don't know where she went, but her son, I called him an emergency, and I needed a way to get into my house, and he came and welded me stuff, and I got into my house. It was wonderful. And we have a community like that. There are people that want to help. They just need to know. The communication, I think, is where it starts to begin with. And if we don't have that, we don't really have anything. And for some reason, you just have to tell people what's going on. Do you know what's going on? Have you heard this? Have you, however you want to do it. I don't know exactly. But that is one thing, to make sure everyone is involved and everyone is part of the team. Everybody wants to be part of the team. I don't care what team it is. So I just experienced the ambulance, and it was wonderful, you guys. What you've done with the Cody people, they were wonderful. All right.
What's that? If you compare, no.
Can you hear me? My question starts out with a statement, and when I hear people say we need to bring jobs here, we need to bring companies here for revenue, I have a problem with that, because at this point in time in Orland, Wyoming, there are 88 open job openings in this town right now that we don't have people filling. So I don't think it's so much as we need businesses, we need participation. Do people know, and I'll go back to Lynette in this, how do we motivate the people we have here, and how do we get everybody informed so each one of them can pick that part of the motivation to help out with? I think that's where everything is lacking. A huge part for our community is, notice that this meeting was even going to happen. I found out at midnight last night. So we need a system, we need people involved in an information war. How do we get people motivated? How do we set them up to help? They want to help, they want to be there. I want to know what you guys have for ideas about how to get those people motivated, involved, and an information place they can go to get all of that.
That's a good question. That's a hard one to answer, because you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And when there's jobs out there and people don't want to participate in those jobs, that's a hard one. And you look at, I just go back to when COVID all hit, and then all these federal monies started being handed out to everybody, and then all of a sudden it's like you're getting the money for nothing essentially, and then jobs were open everywhere, and then a lot of people don't want to go back to work. in some places there, and you've got, like McDonald's and different places, $15 an hour, trying to get people to hire to, just to find folks to get out there, and the, as far as an informational deal, I mean, we do have the job service and things like that. I mean, there's the 1 day a week paper. That's hard to read at sometimes because I mean, you just get it once a week. You do have your social media, but a lot of people don't participate in social media. And I mean, I do a little bit, but I get on and it's like, oh, get that away. It's a time waster to me. Just as watching TV, I said I never had TV when I grew up. I don't watch TV now to speak of. And to get the motivation to folks to get out there is I have to say is that give them a hand up and not a hand out at times there. And for those that can't work, I mean, there's can be accommodations that maybe we can figure something out to help. But I don't have a good specific answer other than all of us as folks in here right now and participating in other meetings out there is to try to help motivate each other, and in turn those folks motivate others to participate, because I feel bad for the small businesses that have had help wanted signs in their windows for months and months, and I just heard the other day from Bruce Jolly, who's the Bighorn County Commissioner, that the Mini Chow's little food court up in Lovell quit because they couldn't get anybody to even fill the positions up there. They thought they'd at least get folks from high school for the summer to help out, and they didn't, so they closed the doors. And it's things like that it's heartbreaking to see our small businesses have problems like that, and then that you throw in the inflation, as Morgan brought up there, and our fuel costs, and I hate to say it, but it's only going to get worse. Everything I've been reading on the news, on the internet. So I mean, we need to buckle up and be part of the solution.
I absolutely agree with Terry. Really great question, Janine. How do we make it more engaging and more exciting for young people to apply and continue working in jobs in Washakie County? I work at Admiral Beverage, and I've been there 7 years, and I can say every summer we had our high school kids, as soon as they would leave, they would come back from college, they would be on the can line or they would be on the bottle line. We had those young men and young women who were regulars every summer that would come in and work. And we don't have that anymore. We don't. So really trying hard to find ways that encourage them to do jobs. You know, you always have a place to start, and you always have a way to work up to. And I think that really the idea, $22 an hour. So really working hard to change that culture, but it's not like you can have a job fair and appeal to folks until they really have been there. So really, really difficult to approach what to do with that. Really difficult, but try.
So today's society that we have here with our young is, you know, you can start out at 45,000 and later on we'll bring you up to around 85. And the answer is, well, I'll just wait till later. And that's kind of what they want. They want the high dollar stuff, and you know, because we've had a lot of freebies out, as Terry said, and Terry said it very well. I'm not going to rehash all of that, but we have tried social media with our public health when it comes to COVID and getting out the information that we could to our residents that, you know, vaccinations were available here and there. We have tried a lot of different things. You know, social media is one thing that we have to deal with and have to use it, but we have to use it conservatively. You can get on there and you can have, it can be a quagmire. So we got to be careful with that as well. our law enforcement and our public health, they use that social media very well. And that's a good example right there that we have. You know, as far as bringing in people into these meetings to try to get volunteers and to try to get things going, we've had very little success unless it's really a hot topic button for folks to come on in. But it is a difficult question. That's a good question, but it's difficult to answer because there's no really good answer that we have. So.
All right, so.
You wanna speak to me? Yeah, Janine, you had all the questions that everybody has had for the last several years. Like Leanne Baker's worked hard on her infrastructure and all that stuff, and I honestly don't know what she's done and what she's accomplished. I couldn't even answer that, but I know she's been very involved in the community. And the other thing, you can drive down Main Street at night. So yeah, communication is, I don't know how we do that, how we get involved and get people involved. Another thing is like the parade for Tinsley. I called Becky Cooper and she said, just show up 45 minutes prior, grab a number and get in line. The parade for Worland, you got to fill out an application. And I don't know if you're qualified or not, but you have to do it 5 days prior. You have to fill out an application. And the same way with the Culture Fest, for example. I didn't kind of know what situation I was in. You had to go down and get the application. You have to fill it out. And you have to do it 5 days prior. So for anything last minute, that's not, you know, and I'm a last minute girl. Unfortunately, I am. But I still get it done even to the last minute. So Worland needs to get rid of some of those crazy rules or whatever they are. And that would help a little. I'm not saying it's all the answers, but it would help a little, I think a lot. Because you're, you know, spur of the moment still is the way lots of things get done. So, here, Morgan.
All right, so I have been on my phone up here the whole time. This is my notepad. I did not bring a paper notepad, so that's what I'm doing, not playing video games. All right, so Janine, part of your question, I absolutely appreciate it because it ties into what I actually wanted to say previously. And then the other part, I'm not sure how you want to tie that into the county commissioners because you don't, okay? Plain and simple. County commissioners are not responsible for creating work ethic in young people and employing people to get jobs. So, how do you teach work ethic in the home? Is it my job as a county commissioner or is it a community? Exactly, it's parents, but we have to break the entitlement culture that's out there. You have to start somewhere in a job, and that's what our working class needs to understand, especially the new ones coming out of high school. You don't deserve $15 an hour. You need to learn and gain job experience so you can make yourself marketable for higher paying jobs. Everybody's done that since the beginning of time. You don't just automatically get the trophy right off the beginning and go from there. So how do we break that entitlement culture? That's a very tough question because I don't see the correlation. One of my things with this, with the county commissioner, is bringing it into the digital age. I know you talked about the social media. It doesn't have to be social media. We have a county webpage that is perfectly capable of hosting polls when we have time-sensitive issues that we're statutorily obligated to have votes on or have the public raise their concerns or opinions on. So we could just have a simple poll on the county webpage. But allowing the community to be more publicly engaged in these meetings would be great. So yes, I would love to bring it into the digital media. And it could be social media as well, but I know social media for a lot of people is a bane. So figuring out ways that as a community that we can vote on or all agree that we can use to use it together. So that's a good way to get everybody on the same page.
Do you have another question, Wendy?
Crying. it or lose it funding from the state and the federal government creates a lot of wasteful spending. And so we do things over and over and over the same exact way due to use it or lose it funding. And how do you propose to eliminate use it or lose it funding? Like potholes is a good example. You fill the potholes the same exact way every single year and it doesn't last.
My opinion to approach the use it or lose it, get together as many people as possible and brainstorm, have many heads together to really come to a appropriate collective decision on what to do with that use it or lose it. Instead of just having a very small group together, like you said, doing the same thing over and over and over again, bring in the collective, bring in experts, talk about those issues like the potholes that get filled and then you're back in the same boat that you were before. What are different alternatives? What are our options? How many different avenues can we approach to look at how to appropriately spend money, where to allocate money, where to appropriate money? In my opinion, use lots of voices. Use lots and lots of voices.
Sorry, Terry, I get to go first. So before my time as a commissioner, the county commissioners before me, they had the use it or lose it, where you had to spend all the money that you had in your budget. You had a new copier machine, you had a new chair, you didn't need it, but yet you had it in your budget, you spent it. So the county commissioners before me, and I believe Terry was one of them, they changed that and said that anything over $500, excuse me, I'll back up. If you didn't have it in your budget already, the line items of an expenditure that you had, you weren't going to get it if it cost more than $500. So anything over $500, you had to come and ask for money from the county commissioners. And we got rid of all that use it, or that was gone. The use it or lose it was gone. Washakie County is one of the very few counties in the state of Wyoming that do that. And all the county commissioners that I've talked to about things, they complain exactly what you just said about. And there's no more money left over. So that's not using the money of our residents wisely and conservatively. So that's a really a leader in the spotlight. You could say Washakie County is. Washakie County is a leader on a lot of things. When it comes to the potholes, we're still on, we cannot just go out and pave all these tar roads that we do have potholes. We did make some changes in our road and bridge, and we've got really good leadership going on, and you're going to see some difference when those potholes get filled, how they got filled, so that they're going to last a little bit longer. We've worked with our agriculture about running sprinkler systems out on our roads and stuff, so that helps us with cutting some costs on that. So that's the only thing I had about the pothole thing on that. But use it or lose it is Washakie County is doing a really good job when it comes to the budget on that. Sorry, Terry.
I guess one way you could solve that maybe is gather all the things that we have done by hurrying using the money, and we either built a building or we bought a bunch of stuff that we really didn't need, especially in the school systems where they have a lot of money. They'll buy all this stuff, and if you can figure out how to put it all in one room, all the stuff that is bought because they had the money. They didn't really need it, and maybe seeing it instead of just reading it, maybe be a way of, changing things from the federal government. Saying, where these states and counties say, no, we're not doing this. We're gonna save this money for when we need it later. So maybe do it in a visual way. I have Linda Anderson back there as a principal for however many years, Linda. You know how the school system worked. And years that had lots of money, they just went crazy. Then all of a sudden you gotta cut 16 positions. And that was horrible for you, right? Yeah. So I guess maybe figuring out how things were so wasted and put it into a visual thing and, a common sense thing, and then maybe it could be done differently that way. And savings account still is the best thing we can have. But for some reason, the federal government doesn't think that. So who's next?
Next is Morgan.
Alright, so the use it or lose it funding, I'm not sitting in that chair again. I don't know what our use it or lose it funding is, and just talk with Perry for a second there. It's very minimal for Washakie County. So, I can't speak to how they spend that. I have no idea. But if I was in the seat and it was something other than potholes, we have to find ways to, again, if we bring it into the digital aid, if we have to spend it somewhere, why can't it be a community-based decision instead of, a Morgan Martinez-based decision? Because that way everybody feels like their voice, or they know that their voice is heard, it feels like it, and they see that action that we've reached out and bridged to them. So that's the way I'd handle it.
Yeah, Fred did touch on that, on the $500 there. Going back, 20 years ago when Bill Glanz, John Dent, and I were on the commission, there were times that sometimes it would take 2 to 3 days to go through the whole budget process. The fair board would come in, the hospital board, all the entities, the component entities would come in and say what they needed, and then all the different departments in the courthouse would come in, and it took a long time. And then come June 30th, when we pay all the bills at the end of the year, all of a sudden everything that they had in the budgets was spent on things, and it was like, holy cow. And it was like, there isn't, and just because the money's in the budget come June 30th doesn't mean they have to spend it, and it was happening that way. And so that's when we went to the $500 on new equipment line items, and it really cut things back. Now when we're going through budget, all the departments submit everything to Mary Grace Stroud, county clerk, and then she sends it to the commissioners. We go through things, and unless we have a question, the component entities or the departments don't even come down to visit with us, and we're able to knock that out most of the time in one day to be able to do that, because of trimming things down to the bare bones. There's nothing left that we can cut other than just what we have, and we don't want to get into the cutting of the personnel like I talked about before. So other things that there are use it or lose it time frames on is certain grants that might have to be used up by a certain time frame, and there was I'll give an example that where we turned money back, and that's when we did the courthouse renovation, the funds that we got. I don't remember how much we turned back, but it was a significant amount in the $10,000 that we gave back, just because we were done with the project, and we actually came in under budget, which was a good thing. Seems like everything's over budget whenever you start a project. So the big thing I would just say is that all the departments and component entities don't have to spend that if they don't want to at the end. And with the bare bones budget they have, there's nothing to spend.
Okay, so we have one more question at this time, and then at that point we will work to wrap this up. I would ask after this question and the to please engage the candidates and pose those questions. I believe that all of them are very approachable. So it gives an opportunity to find out what we're going to get in the future. So
I'm gonna try to make this not sound very harsh or anything. Hindsight's 2020. This is kind of Florida city government, and I've been asked to do more with less, and an economic downturn, which is things that you have to anticipate. What I don't really hear right now is somebody stepping up as a leader and thinking outside of the box, taking into consideration the things that we know now that happened in this country. We masked kids. We shut down businesses. One of the things I want to know is it's going to come around again because there are people trying to destroy the American way of life that we value. So what are you going to do as leaders of this county? And it should not all be, the onus of correcting all of these problems should not be on you, but you should be in a position to reach out into the community and find people with talents, skills, and abilities and say, listen, we want to bring business in here, but we have to train a workforce, and we have to instill value in these people. All of the Legion, they try to get a youth program started, all of these things that we're trying to engage. This is the time to get people in the community, a force multiplier with law enforcement, observe and report, all these other things that we can do. And I don't hear anybody saying, listen, I'm going to get behind this. I'm going to call you because I know you, and I'm going to put your butt to work. So we got midterms coming up. We got an election coming up. The next pandemic, the next load of crap that comes down, are we going to be sheep? What kind of plan do you have to protect the county from more business shutdowns? Because we cannot shut down businesses. And we know after the fact. So, I mean, it's an economic downturn. We have to be creative. It's not all on you, but you have to, do you know people in the community that you can put to work? I mean, what can we do in that regard?
Okay, well, that's good questions. Comes to a pandemic, I think all three of us pretty much wore on our sleeves of what we felt about businesses being shut down. We were not for it at all. And, without getting into some litigation, got to be careful with that, but we did not agree with what happened with the businesses being closed or businesses being threatened and the mask mandates, and we did not agree with that. We felt that individuals had their own right to wear a mask and not wear a mask, that they had common sense that they could protect themselves and protect their fellow person. But it was mandated by the state, and that happened. And when it wasn't mandated again, then we took some action. And I got to leave it at that part. But as what would we do as a leader to help with pandemics? There are some things that we would do some things that we would do differently with our situation that we had back in December. Again, I can't get into more than that. I'll get spanked by the county attorney, so. It's kind of tough to bring in some of these areas, but there are some leaders here in our community, and we tap them. We do. We actually tap them. They go unnoticed a lot of times. They may get picked up in the paper. They were picked up sometimes in the radio spot that Leanne had. Sometimes they'll get picked up, in some other areas on social media and that there. But most times, some of these leaders that get tapped are they're not people that want to get rewarded for something. We have a tremendous amount of leaders on all of our local boards that we have, and they're volunteers, and they've stepped up. If you want to look at some good leaders, look at our county fair board out there. wow, unsung heroes and volunteers. They put in countless and countless of hours. But there's other boards that do the same thing, and those are the leaders that we have, that are community leaders that we actually have out here, so.
Is it on? Okay. So, I don't wanna pick on someone, but, the government office, or the federal government, or even the state, they still have lots of rules with how many visitors can go in, how many still with the mask. They get to do that because they still get a paycheck. People that are self-employed, they couldn't have all those rules. I mean, they got rid of them as soon as we could. But I have, my financing for my cows is at the USDA office. And I'm not criticizing them at all, but they still have all the rules, just like COVID was still going on. That, you know, their paychecks did not get changed at all with all that. I don't know how you change that. I have no idea. Another thing that I've kind of looked into, Butte, Montana, for example, has put their county and their city together. They have eliminated some of the situation, and they work together as one. They don't have the county, they don't have the city. Financially, it has saved them millions and millions of dollars. I don't know exactly how it's done, but that's another thing. And another thing, I don't know, have we ever looked into, Terry and Fred, contracting some of the stuff out? The snow removal, the this, that. Have we ever looked into that instead of having all our own employees? You know, I don't know. I know that the waste, where we take our garbage.
Right.
It used to be, people ran it and did it. Then the county decided they wanted to have it. Has that been financially good for us? I don't know. That's something I think we need to look into. We need accountants really to look into this, like John Harrington right there. He's very frugal. He knows exactly all the dimes and pennies. So maybe that's something we need to look into, is contracting some of this stuff out. We are a small town. Getting the county and the city to go together. I know it has saved a lot of towns in Montana that have done that. We could look into something like that. Maybe it could be a big no-no. I don't know.
So to understand your question, what can we do, is that, to paraphrase it, what can we do to shield the businesses or our community from another shutdown? Is that more or less what
More like, what are you going to do? What are you planning to do? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about problems. Everybody, we got problems, but somebody's got to get out of the box. Let's hear some ideas, man. Motivate some folks. Let's keep going.
Roger that. So, a lot of you know that I'm still serving in the United States Navy, correct? So 22 years, I'm in the reserve now. This whole last year, I fought the illegal mandate, shot mandate, vaccination mandate from the U.S. government to the military. I'm one of a handful of people that have put their neck on the line day in and day out, fielding calls and going toe-to-toe with commanding officers, admirals, generals, and our state reps, and even our own SecDef. I'm willing to lose my career in every benefit for my freedoms. If that doesn't tell you how hard I'm willing to fight, then I don't know what will. But I'm willing to risk it all for my beliefs, my religious beliefs. So what they've done is illegal, and everything that they've done to our people, they should pay for it. So, small businesses, going back to that, my parents were gravely hurt. I know Maggie's was hurt by the shutdown. Countless, my Aunt Minerva back there, she had to close her doors. Never again will that happen in Washakie County, not as long as I'm commissioner.
Okay, I'll pick up a little bit where Fred left off, and I'll try to give a few more details, but again, I'll get in trouble with county attorney. So, back when all the COVID was hitting and we were being told we were gonna start shutting down, and public health officers around the state were recommending that, we had a meeting out at the fairgrounds so we could have more space out there so everybody could keep their 6 feet apart. And the public health officer, he wanted to talk about sending a resolution on, the recommendation on to the state health officer's office there that we need to shut business down and comply with mask mandates and everything. And this went on for an hour and a half. And I recall Chris being there too, and I think he can vouch for that. But we sat there, and then all of a sudden the public health officer says, well, I've already sent it off to the state. So I had to pause for a second. It's like, here we're sitting talking about something, and taking feedback from the public, from the hospital folks were there, nurses were there, general public, and it turned out that it was already sent off to the public. And I think that was a Thursday we met out there, and I was very ticked off about that. I mean, we appoint the county health officer, and we have the ability to relieve them from their position. That Monday rolled around, and he was relieved from that position because he did not concur with he did not consult with the county commission. And so that was all public knowledge. That was in the paper. I can't go into other details about that, but that's what we did. And I was not supportive of shutting businesses down. When the state tells you, it's kind of where the counties are an arm of the state. And when you're told you're going to do this, we can talk to the state and tell them, it's like, no, that's a bunch of BS, and we don't agree with that. But it really puts us in a bind. But I think you can say that from this commission to this point, we've stood strong and stood our ground, and definitely support the businesses and want things to continue on as they were before COVID ever hit.
Okay. Mr. Brady?
So as a nurse, I can speak volumes about COVID. I can speak volumes about the pandemic. And I see what it did to our communities. I see what it did to our world. What happened through COVID was just, we were led by fear. The media bred fear and spread fear. And that was a double-edged sword, because you had experts in the field saying you're going to die, and you had non-experts in the field saying you're not going to die. You had experts in the field saying you're not going to die, and you had non-experts in the field that said you're going to die. So it's very difficult from that very beginning of COVID, looking to see how you're going to protect the people, how you're going to stop the spread of that virus. What we see now certainly has changed the approach for COVID and the approach for businesses. Is there going to be another pandemic? Absolutely. Have I been through a lot of pandemics in my 15 years as a nurse? Absolutely. Have we learned something with every single pandemic and done something different with every approach? Absolutely. Has the biggest one that we've dealt with been COVID? Yes. Education, so important. The more that we can get education out there and have both positive and negative there, you're never going to have an agreement on there. You're going to always look to where that majority goes. But I believe in education, not ruling by fear, and then certainly involving those experts in the field and the non-experts in the field to collaborate. I did not turn it off.
Thank you all very much for sitting here and taking questions this afternoon. I want to thank Wendy for putting this together. I think it's a great opportunity for everyone to be able to ask questions and to be able to see what the shape of our community and our county will look like in the next 4 years. Thank you.